Good night, Belizeans at home and abroad. This is the Belizean Affairs Show number 445. 445. My name is Leonard Brackett. I'll be your host and chairman for tonight's program. Being Friday, normally we would be dealing with some legal case laws matters as well as constitutional matters and others. Of course, tonight will be dedicated to the government of Belize and the people of Belize, and more in particular to the leadership of the government of Belize. However, we do have a process or a protocol that we use in the launching of our program, which is to say that we do a short little prayer and we do a short scripture reading as well. And in the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and bow my head and say a short prayer. Divine loving Father, once again we come before thy presence, asking that thou would accept our humble expression of gratitude and thankfulness to you for having given us the privilege of life, first and foremost, and secondly, for the opportunity to still be alive among our family members, friends, and loved ones. We pray that thou mayest continue to bless our children, grandchildren, great grandchildren, those of us who have, that thou would bless our brothers and sisters and uncles and aunts and our wives and loved ones and other significant ones. We pray that thou mayest continue to bless this country of the United States, its people and leadership. That thou would bless our country of Belize, its people and leadership. And that thou would bless the rest of humanity. To knowest our hearts, our desires, even our most secret thoughts, loving Father. We pray that thou mayest continue to abide with us. Let the words of our mouth and the meditation of our mind and the contriteness of our heart be acceptable before thy divine presence, now and always. Please grant relief to those people who are in war zones, who are suffering the loss of uh, limbs and even lives. We pray that thou must bless those who are in hurricane area or tornado area or flooding area or volcano area and all manner of earthly pestilence as well as man-made disasters. Please continue to abide with us and whatever we have to say and present tonight on this program as we come with troubled hearts and minds, knowing that we're dealing with a lot of devious, detrimental, and destructive forces that are let loose on the face of this earth. Pray that thou mayest be our defender, that thou mayest be our guide. Whatever we have to say tonight, may it accrue to some positive public benefit to our people of Belize and others. For we ask these mercies in Jesus' name. Amen. I'll just proceed further to do a short reading. You see the book of Mark. Let me see what part I'm going to choose to read. Okay, I'll go ahead and start reading at Mark chapter 13, starting at verse 5. And Jesus answered them, began to say, take heed, let any man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. And when ye shall hear it was rumors of wars, be ye not troubled, for must need such things must need be, but the end shall not be yet. And that is the end of tonight's reading. Thank you for allowing us to indulge in the preliminaries of our program. And I'll just get about, since we have only 90 minutes tonight, and there's a lot of material that I would hope to be able to cover. We'll just launch into our program proper. And so here we go. Um, I'll take the opportunity to read a portion of the preamble of Belize. I want to read paragraph B. I also want to read, I think it's paragraph E, and I may end up reading the final paragraph, which is paragraph F. Uh, Let me just proceed here with paragraph B to start with. And the preamble says, whereas the people of Belize, as in paragraph D, respect the principles of social justice and therefore believe that the operation of the economic system must result in the material resources of the community being so distributed as to subserve the common good, that there should be adequate means of livelihood for all, that labor should not be exploited or forced by economic necessity to operate in inhumane conditions, but that there should be opportunity for advancement on the basis of recognition of merit, ability, and integrity, that equal protection should be given to children regardless of their social status, and that a just system should be ensured to provide for education and health on the basis of equality. I go on to read paragraph E, which states as follows, which requires policies of state which protect and safeguard the unity, freedom, sovereignty, and territorial integrity of Belize. And I'll read that little part over again for emphasis, which require policies of state. I stop at that for emphasis because what I'm going to deal with tonight relates a lot in respect of policies of state. That is to say, tonight's uh, main focus will be on the onerousness and mismanagement of our government, of our governance system in regards to policies of state, which should accrue to the welfare and benefit of the people of Belize, but are being suborned for personal interests. We'll get there though in due time. So just let me proceed to finish up the reading from the preamble. And for the third time, I'll reread this part before reading the rest of it, which requires policies of state which protect and safeguard the unity, freedom, sovereignty, and territorial integrity of Belize, which eliminate economic and social privilege and disparity among the citizens of Belize, whether by race, ethnicity, color, creed, disability, or sex, which ensures gender equality, which protect the rights of the individual to life, liberty, basic education, basic health, the right to vote in elections, the right to work, and the pursuit of happiness, which protects the indemnity, dignity, and social and cultural values of Belize, including Belize's indigenous people, which preserves the right of the individual to the ownership of private property, and the right to operate private business, which prohibits the exploitation of man by man, or by the state, which ensures a just system of social security and welfare, which protects the environment, and which pro- promote international peace, security, and cooperation among nations, the establishment of a just and equitable international economic and social order in the world, and which respects for uh, social order in the world with respect for international law and treaty obligations in the dealing among nations. And I'll read paragraph F, which is a little shorter. Uh, Goes on to say, and we, the Belizean people, desire that our society shall reflect and enjoy the above mentioned principles, beliefs, and needs, and that their constitution should therefore enshrine and make provisions for assuring the achievement of the same listed above in Belize. Uh, I took the liberty of adding a few little words that made the reading a bit more uh, comprehensive or clearer, not more than a couple of words here and there. Um, and those are portions of a preamble of the Constitution of Belize. Paragraph F, paragraph E, and paragraph B. It's quite a bit of reading, covers quite a substantive amount of requests, demands, and stipulations on behalf of the people of the country, the plebiscite, by our forefathers or those who put together the Constitution of Belize. Uh, I would like to take the privilege to say that the present PUP-led government of Belize, under Mr. Briceño as Prime Minister, and his cabinet, and the large majority of the members of the House of Representatives, whom were granted the privilege to represent the people, they have embarked on a journey of misrepresentation. That is to say, they told the people some things that they wanted to do, and they did not tell them other things that they had intentions to do. When they wanted to be elected, they came and they told us, we will do all the things that the UDP, which was in government prior or before them, were not doing, and which the people were clamoring for the UDP to do. So here come these jackals from the PUP making the promises that they were going to fulfill those things that the people could not get the UDP to fulfill. And the people trusted them. They believed in them. And not only did they give them the mandate to govern the country, they gave them an overwhelming mandate. In fact, as a matter of fact, they not only gave them the ability to be able to change certain portions of the Constitution as is allowed for under our present Constitution, but they have also embarked on this idea of wanting to change or eviscerate just about any portion of the Constitution, whether allowable or not allowable. They wanted to just take the whole system, up, uproot it, do what they want with it, and then replant it in their own image, with them capturing the vested powers of the country onto themselves to have no accountability. Because as of right now, the Constitution demands that they have a certain level of accountability to the people. When they go and they swear after winning the election, they swear allegiance to the people and the country of Belize and its constitution. As soon as the ceremony for swearing in is completed, they go on their merry way and do what they think they want to do, because they believe that they are not accountable to anyone, that they then have the powers of governance vested in them to do as they please, not as they promised or as the people are requiring or asking or demanding. In other words, they start to act in onerous ways and in ways that the Constitution does not contemplate. But they don't care, because they don't even believe in the Constitution. They refuse to abide by the Constitution. As soon as they got elected, within less than 30 days of being elected, the reason why they were elected is because the UDP had run the economy of the country in the ground, partially of their own making, and partially because of the COVID and other extraneous issues that was going on, that they could not surmount or succeed at overcoming. And therefore, the people decided to give the PUP the opportunity to do what they were promising to do. And like I said, they elected them with a super majority, only to have them get big-headed and start overreaching and get power drunk and start abusing the very same people that had elected them. Within less than 90 days of them becoming elected, I sent the Prime Minister a letter indicating to him how he could have come up with an extra $250 million to help with the budget. Because I knew that the previous budget, was woefully short, and that he, as the new Prime Minister, would have to find a way to adjust the budget and do certain things in order to help the country get off its knees and stand up and try to move forward. They did not take the advice that was produced in the letter, the memo that I had sent. They did not follow through on it. They decided, within their own rights, to do as they pleased in that regards. That is, they were the elected government, and therefore they was going to do it the way they wanted. So be it. That's their prerogative. That's their rights. That's why they were elected. But at the time when they read the budget, now this happened when I sent them this letter. This letter was sent, I think, about the ending of November. They had gotten elected in November, and this letter was sent. It was, like I said, it was less than 30 days after they got elected. I have published that letter on quite numerous amount of times for public review, and I may, after this particular show, end up reposting it again or republishing it again. Because what I'm saying and what I'm about to say, a lot of people may wonder why I put myself in the position to be able to say these things ahead of time and allow myself to be perceived maybe as a charlatan. I would give them the benefit of the doubt in that regards. but that historically, after the fact, 2020, my predictions have become very, very salient and successfully um, um, being found out to be true. Uh, I'm having a little call for one of our previous. Uh, just a minute, please. Uh, Hello, Mr. Morrison. Hello, hello. Oh, no, no, no. Oh, okay. Let's see what up. Just a minute. For those who are on the program, please spare me a couple of seconds. Let me respond to this call because it's one of our panelists, and I did send out a notice, but I'm afraid that Mr. Mercer, I'm sorry, sir. Oh, I'm sorry. No, no, I did not send out a link. You did not get a link because I did not send those out. I did send out preemptively ahead of time a notice. I sent you a text. Um, I think why you may not have gotten it is because I did not send a text to you on your email. I only sent the text to you as well as Mr. Wade and the other panelists in what you call it, in, Messenger. No, in Messenger, in the regular Messenger. But I did send out, and I was trying to call you too, and I did not have the opportunity to make the connection. And so I'm doing a one-man show tonight, and I did not want to compromise you or any of the other panelists, on this particular show because of what I'm intending to do. And I explained that in the memo. Thank you very much, sir. But sorry for that, and let me try and get back because I have these people in the background here. And we'll talk again. We'll talk. We'll talk. God bless. Uh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. For those of you who are um, on the program live, and for those who will be listening after, I'm sorry about that particular um, distraction just now. It's because one of our panelists, I did not send the information to him in his email. I sent it through Messenger, and anyhow, I don't want to get into the house cleaning background issues right now because I'm trying to stay focused on this particular program, and I'm just apologizing basically for taking away that piece of the time just now and not being cogent in the presentation of the program by having breaking it just now. But let me pick up again and go from where I was. And that is to say, after the PUP got elected, because people were disenchanted and felt that the UDP were not doing a good enough economic um, recovery for the country after we went through COVID, the PUP was given the privilege to take over governance, but it was done in giving them such a extreme or large mandate to the point where they have what you call a super majority in the House. And so that group, having constituted then the new government of the country, decided instead of trying to work with the situation in a dignified way, they decided to become treacherous and aggressive towards the teachers, the civil service, and all the other groups of individuals who had been against them and kicked them out of power in the previous cycles. Okay? They came in with a vengeance on their mind, on their heart, on their soul, apparently, to the point where it mattered them not that we were still going through the COVID as of the time when they were given the privilege to take over governance. And they slowed down the pantry gifts that was being given to some of the people because our country, Belize, have 60 odd percent poverty rate according to the poverty index, international poverty index, which means that there are people who go sometimes probably go to sleep that have no food for that day on, or maybe for this, before they go to sleep on hungry belly. Then basically that's what I'm trying to intimate or say. But that was not the worst part. The worst part is that the government decided, out of maliciousness and vengefulness, to dispossess the teachers and the rest of the civil service of 10% of their salary. They did not follow through what I had pointed out to them in the letter, that would have avoided having to dispossess the civil servants and the teachers of their 10% while going through the COVID. That is, in other words, put them in such a bad situation, knowing that those people had already gone through a major catastrophe because of the effects and damage from that disease and the shutting down of the government and the country, and the damage that was caused. A lot of people suffered. A lot of people became impoverished. Some of them lost their lives. Some of them never regained their jobs. In fact, some of their jobs never did came back. But here comes the government now, newly elected, with all this power behind them. Instead of coming to resolve some of the issues that would have moved the country forward in a positive way and to help the country get out of its state of malaise, they're coming to do more damage. So they took away the 10% from the teachers. For what reason? To go and give Mr. Ashcroft. Okay? They took away the 10% from the teachers and the civil servants so that they can go and settle, like the Prime Minister got up in the House of Representatives and said they settled all outstanding accounts. Like I'll put my fingers on my, together and as a quotation, right? So he denied those people of their salaries, which they had been working. He didn't reduce their hours. He did what the Constitution and the preamble, like I just read, said not to do. But he doesn't care about the Constitution or about the laws. He's a scofflaw. And the rest of his buddies in cabinet who sit there in cabinet and conspire against the very same people who elected them, okay, to do them wrong and evil. He turns around and take those people money from them to go and pay all the outstanding debts, according to him, that the country had with Mr. Ashcroft and that his political party had with Mr. Ashcroft, and to suborn all governance processes to the whim of a billionaire so that they can stay ingratiated with him. And to hell with the people. It was then that I realized that this gentleman wasn't coming in as he left out. That is, when he left out, he was one of the G7 men that was trying to work against his own party under Mr. Musa to do the right thing on behalf of the country. And as a result, then people had some faith in him to say, let's give him a chance, because we saw that he was trying to stop his own party from being onerous. So now we'll take a chance with him and give him the opportunity to take over governance. Only to find out that the guy was just a scoundrel in disguise. Not only did he go on and settle, according to him, all accounts with Mr. Ashcroft, presumably the government accounts which the Barrow administration did not pay off all the indebtedness that they had with Mr. Ashcroft. So he comes in now, being a good buddy of Mr. Ashcroft and being in business with Mr. Ashcroft, and he wants to burn the whole governance system to Mr. Ashcroft's whim. So he went and bought, according to him, he bought back the port, the Belize port that belonged to the Belize people. That was in receivership because of his party having credited to one of their own party brothers, so that that brother could uphold it over as a retirement gig for the rest of those who were in government. In other words, they dispossessed the government and people of Belize of the assets of the people of Belize to themselves on their credit. And then the person that they credited to went and take out a loan for close to, I think it was between 38 and $40 million from Mr. Ashcroft. And for that, then he did not pay that loan back, and Mr. Ashcroft took over receivership of our government facility, which should have been making money for the government coffers. He took it over, and he started taking all the profit out of it, to the tune of probably 13 years approximately, at about $15 million per year. So that was quite a handsome haul on his part. For $40 million, which the government could have just as well paid off that $40 million debt, so that Mr. Ashcroft would not have had any reason to take our port, government port or public port, into receivership. Take it back because they had credited and it wasn't paid for. They refused to do that. So the Prime Minister, because he's in business with Mr. Ashcroft, he turns around and comes to the public and tell us that, oh, he was getting a deal from Mr. Ashcroft by paying $400 million for something that was only credited for $40 million. How the hell can $40 million turn into $400 million, which we didn't have, as a matter of fact? And like I said, he had to squeeze out of the country. Okay? He had to squeeze money out of the country in order to pay the amount that he was agreeing with Mr. Ashcroft. They sit behind the scene and screw the Belizean people, basically, for all intents and purposes. That's what they did. They conspire, and then he got into cabinet and get the support of his cabinet colleagues, who are all a bunch of drunkards themselves, just feeding on the carcasses of the public affairs. Okay? So he stated in the House that he had settled all accounts. He gave the man $78 billion right up front, promised to give him another $25 million per year, which means then that as of today date that we're having this discussion, every year the man was getting an extra $25 million, on top of all the amounts that was already paid to him and suborned to him, and all the additional concessions that was given to him to redo the Fort George Hotel, free of taxes, free of any kind of expenses on his part. In other words, mostly at the government expense, so to speak. Okay? So instead of the government get some money in the coffers to deal with its own liabilities and to pay its own wage bill and all the other expenses of running the government, he, Mr. Briceño, as the Prime Minister, and who had control of cabinet as well as control of the majority of the parliamentarians in his party in Parliament or in the House of Representatives, he was hauling and pulling the system to satisfy his colleague so that he can stay in good grace with his billionaire colleague, and to hell with the Belizean people. That is not what a government is supposed to be about. When anybody come to you at that level and behave that kind of way, they're acting honorously, not honorably. They're acting with malice aforethought, with conspiracy in their mind, that they conspire with the billionaire to do us harm, and presumably to do it so in a way that it seems legitimate or justifiable or legal. How can no members of cabinet get up in cabinet and do like what Mr. Briceño had done during the Musa administration while he was in cabinet? They rebelled against Mr. Musa when Mr. Musa was going crazy and chancing the people. He allowed and tell Mr. Musa, bring back some of the money out of care. Who the hell is calling him now and telling him, any of his members in the cabinet telling him, bring back some of the money that he is suborning to Mr. Ashcroft and out of the coffers of the Belizean treasury, so that we don't have enough left behind for us to pay for government services and to facilitate our 68% poverty people that need some help. And on top of that, they are giving these guys hundreds of millions of dollars worth of concessions. All they do is extract. After making that deal with Mr. Ashcroft, as I said, as of today's date, we are still giving that man another $25 million every year as part of that original agreement. On top of that, he comes to this stupid idea of trying to sell his internet company to BTL, or publicly owned facility, in order for them to get some money out of BTL so that they don't have to continue running their company and end up losing their company because they're not willing to invest the money to modernize it. But they are going to come to our company, and because he's the prime minister and his brother own part of the other company that Mr. Ashcroft is running, well, not running, but I mean, he's controlling because he has majority control. They're going to come and try to sell us a puss in a bag, half dead puss at that, for a price that is far beyond what it was really worth. And because some members of the board of directors of our BTL company stood up to defend the rights of the Belizean people, they're going to get hot under the collar and make it a political issue instead of making it a business issue, and turn around and say that, oh, well, our public company that belongs to us, the government of Belize, is actually a private company, and therefore the people of Belize have no right to be interfering in and or be bothered or be concerned about what happens in the boardroom of that company. Is he crazy? And that we should allow those people to negotiate and decide what they want to do, just so that they can get a few $1 million out of the company. That's racketeering. That's abuse of power. That's malignancy. And if that's not enough, he's going to come and turn around now with Portico, which was another, I would say, a child of his, of the prime minister, whom he was encouraging Mr. Gegg and others to front for Portico, and acting like Portico was a bona fide business. Portico was a dead race. They were trying to get the concessions from the government to use to negotiate with the big tourist companies, so that the tourist companies would facilitate them and build the stuff with them, and they would get the powers of government sovereign to facilitate that establishment of Portico. But we bust their butt so hard on that, they got shamed and embarrassed, and they got put up against the wall, and they were shown for who they were. So they kind of put Portico in the back. First, they came to the house with Portico and were saying, okay, well, they saw the errors of their way, so they were going to tear up the contract for the Portico tourism affair, as the Prime Minister did right there in the House of Representatives. He tore up what? Not the original, a copy. So he was just making a fool and a clown of us Belizeans. Because just after tearing that up, he went on in his own words to express that, yes, they tore up what he tore up in the House, but that he was going to negotiate with the people them now to see if they can come up with some agreement or arrangement where they can save the overall project. That meant that he was getting deeper into the stuff instead of just having other people front for him and the rest of his colleagues. And that's how stupid we Belizeans were supposed to have been, or how naive we were supposed to have been. But this guy is coming to us in our face, playing us for fools, and the people of Belize who were just politicians or followers of parties who would know nothing about how this process work and should work for it to be legal. They were just saying, okay, well, the government was elected, so let them do what they want to do, even if it means screwing them. That is unfortunate, because we bust their butt so much over the political and we exposed their butt so much over it to the point that they took shame and put it in the background and said, okay, well, they're going to revisit it. They're going to see if they can rewrite it and renegotiate it. The Prime Minister went to Florida on various trips, met with different individuals over there to try and see if they could have swung the deal. And it couldn't happen because those big tourist company, those big shipping company, they're listed on Wall Street and on other different legitimate what they call them transactions group, such as Wall Street, or such as the Standard and Poor's and others. So they cannot be found to be playing hanky-panky with any small government such as ours and suborning them against the will of the people and breaking the Constitution and turning around getting 25 and 30 years concession tax-free while our country is walking around with a tin can in their hand begging the rest of the world for assistance or help, and we have our leaders giving away the tax base of the country to foreign influence just so that they can get a little kickback on the side. And again, like I said, to hell with the rest of the country if we can't even meet our basic obligations. It is through taxation that most governments survive and succeed in terms of moving ahead and paying for their wage bill and other expenses to run a government. But no, these jackals, what they do is they, like I said, cut these side deals behind the scene with these big power breakers, international power breakers, and suborn our country's legitimate laws and system. And then they turn around and come and try and haul the money out of the local impoverished society, which is onerous. But they don't care because they don't have any good faith or good intention or goodwill towards the people. The Prime Minister himself said, as regards to government affairs, the people will pay. Those are his own words. So because they know that the people will pay and have to pay, then they don't have any obligation or mandate according to him or desire on their part to stop facilitating these companies with tax break and to collect their taxes from these companies. In fact, you have the local business then. Some of them collect the GST and don't turn in all the GST to the government. You know how long we've been haggling with the government about those issues? To the point where one of them, the one that was thrown off the 2-foot donkey, turned around and tell us, oh, he went and sat down and drank some whiskey with the people them, or some liquor with the people them, and they promised him and told him they were not cheating the public and they were not collecting the more taxes than what they're submitting in order to counter what we were alleging. We were alleging on good grounds because we had receipts. I went to Belize myself and processed some of the information to validate. So when we were talking about it, it's not because we were talking off the top of our head or we didn't know what we were talking or just trying to be malicious and making bogus allegations. We cannot be found to be in that sort of situation because our credibility is the coin that we survive on. As I said lastly, the one that was thrown by the 2-foot jackass, we call them jackass in Belize. Donkeys are things that we call in Belize jackass. So we have a 2-foot jackass that metaphorically throw the man off a back, right? So the man say he had bad back as a result. And I'm talking about no other one than I'm calling names. This is why tonight I'm doing a one-man show, because I don't want what I have to say to be accrued and or to be um, uh, painted on nobody else. I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm saying. I know where the skeletons are. I know the facts, and therefore, whether they want to classify what I'm saying as being libelous or is being defamatory, you cannot defame a person that has no real fame or that has bad fame. You cannot defame. You can't libel with the truth. So as far as what I'm saying, the facts speak for themselves, and the facts are good enough to stand up in court, because I have not only the verbal ability to convey those facts, but I have the evidence in black and white, which is why I dare to walk that narrow line where they may feel offended about what I'm saying and think that they have a right to take me to court, only to have themselves laughed out of court, because the evidence speaks for itself. I don't have the time to waste libeling nobody or finding myself going to court or being challenged on something that I would end up losing and end up having myself not only just lose my freedom, but being in jail. I could do a lot of other better things out here with my free time than to sit in jail for being libelous to somebody or for, you know, denigrating somebody. But when I have the temerity and the reason and justification to rise to the occasion of having to do this, it's because I'm justified. And I stand on good enough grounds as far as I'm concerned, which is why I open my mouth and speak to these issues. We have honorous people running our affairs and misrepresenting, misleading, misguiding, and mismanaging our affairs. Belize and Belizeans, from the time of independence and before independence, but let me go as at least from the time of independence, we have had governments being elected one in, one out, one in, one out for a period of time. Then we have had a few governments being elected probably 2 cycles in a row, and then another one elected 3 cycles in a row, and then another one elected as the current one that we have right now 2 cycles in a row. And each and every one of them have done worse than the previous ones before them, with impunity. Because no government has taken the previous government to court for their bastardization of our constitution, for their illegal conduct, for their malicious conduct, for their treacherous conduct, for bleeding our treasury, their kleptocratic behavior. No government has done what they should have done, which is to set the standard and to implement the constitutional requirements and the laws of the land, to say that even as a government official, you cannot embezzle the government funding or funds. But they don't want to do it because they know that at some point they will not be in government anymore, and somebody else will come in and probably end up turning around and do them the same thing. So they aid and abet and encourage each other with the craziness that is going on in the country, and the people suffer the consequence. We have currently the same Prime Minister as I'm talking about originally, Mr. Briceño, for example, again. After the Portico thing, after they could not get the Portico thing off the ground properly, because, you know, we stood in the breach and we fought them to the point of standstill, he turns around and uses the powers of governance again to take away a private venture from Mr. Feinstein. Mr. Feinstein, according to our constitution, is entitled to develop his sport, finance his sport however he wants to and he needs to, without the government getting involved and try to take away his property from him to give to another private individual under the guise of eminent domain. That is, that they're taking it away from one private person on behalf of the government, for the government and people of Belize, because it is critically needed and that the country cannot do without it. That is what private domain means. When somebody has possession of something that the government is in need of it and needs to have it without any restrictions, and you have to use the powers of the government under eminent domain, that is the right to take, but that you have to fulfill the obligation of paying for it. So not only did this scoundrel take the powers of our governance and shield himself, or attempted to, because of, as of right now, the matter is still back to court again. And at some point, as I have stipulated before, that case, we will end up losing it if they don't suborn that Mr. Feinstein and pay him what he thinks he's deserving. We, the Belizean people, will have to be the one to pay. Even though the government said they entered into an agreement with the other private company to whom the government delivered Mr. Feinstein's property. And the property was delivered to somebody else, contrary to law, an illegal and unconstitutional move at that, under a bogus or a false claim that did not materialize, because Belizeans did not for one instant get one share in that company from its transference from Mr. Feinstein to the new owners. It should have had to at least gone through a process where the Belizean government should have held and had possession of it for it to have become validly a claim of eminent domain, which did not happen. So on that basis again, in order to wash foreign money, our government entered into agreement with a foreign entity to take possession of a local Belizean property, which is also illegal nationally and internationally. You call that a scumbag transaction. They feel at that. We took over the port from Mr. Ashcroft after paying him more than 10 times the original loan. And now this jackass is going to come and tell us in public that he has sat and negotiated with foreign interests again on our behalf without our authorization or acquiescence or even knowledge, that he has decided that our port needed upgrading. So he won't get into bed with another multi-billionaire or billionaire company, make agreements to sign over our port to a foreign entity that will put money into our port so that they can develop an additional port right there next door to it, a tourist village. Does that idiot doesn't recognize or realize that once a foreign entity, a billionaire, multi-billionaire company comes in and suborn our government and governmental systems under legal contract, that public facility that belongs to us, the government, who just got it back now recently, will then become the property of that foreign entity again, because it's their money. They are not working for our government. They will invest and own and control our port again, as well as their tourist village. That's how those things work. And the government will not tell us that until we end up in court with these people. Then we'll end up finding out that the documents were favorable to these people, just as we found out with Portugal, and as we found out with what you call it, Mr. Feinstein. They play these deals behind the back of the Belizean people, who are mostly docile and ignorant about these things anyhow. and who apparently could care less. And these things are making no money for our treasury. Not only that, in this agreement, there are stipulations that say that these people could create their own banking system, which is even worse than the fact that when they develop these ports and they bring these tourists, they don't pay no taxes to Belize because all of the financing of these tourist transactions is done before they even get on the ship. And it is done in other countries. So no money comes to Belize, only the tourists come to Belize, and there's no taxes that the government gets from these individuals. As a matter of fact, what's even worse now, that when they make these little villages, they don't want the people to come and interact with the local Belizean people anymore. They bring them from abroad on these tourist ships. And if they want to go on the mainland, they can go on the mainland and only move around within the limits of the tourist village that they have. And if they move anywhere outside of that jurisdiction, it's because they're taking them on specific tours, on buses. You see lines and lines of buses that go and pick up the people and take them to the tourist destinations such as the Maya ruins or the zip line or any of the other facilities then. It's not like it used to be before, when the people would come off the ship and they'd walk around Belize City and spend a little money in the different stores or with the different craft makers or with the different hair braiders or with food vendors or with whatever. No. It's all a controlled process. So we provide the infrastructure, we provide the Belize destination, we provide the sea, the land, everything that it takes. We provide the police force, we provide the customs department, we provide all the different governmental support, and we get nothing. And that's how these jackals, they trade us off or sell us off, so that they can get a little side something in their pocket. They can get themselves ingratiated with these big people that they go and sit down and drink with, while the Belizean coffers stay empty. That is where we are supposed to be earning our money to help us with our economy and to have jobs for our local people. Not only did they go ahead and do the dastardly deed against Mr. Feinstein, but now they're coming back with this same joke about getting these other foreigners into the port of Belize, the Belize port. Okay? Besides that, we come to the issue of the gas, the gas and the petrols and all that type of stuff right now. We don't have any control over these wars or the inconveniences caused by these wars, but we have control over how onerously we tax our people. And there was no justification for the Prime Minister, when he heard about this war happening, for him to raise the price of the gas that we had in the country before he acquired a new stock that would have cost a little bit more. He went ahead and raised the price of the old stock that we had. That was not favorable to the best interests of the people of Belize. And when he did that, he created an explosion of cost of living by virtue of doing that. So it wasn't just the impact of the higher price for the fuel or the gas, which he owns gas companies and he is benefiting from personally. No. Inflation occurred, and as a result, everything, everywhere that anybody was selling or buying or trading or whatever went up in price. It shouldn't have happened until they had gotten new shipment to be able to justify that legally, lawfully, and morally. But they didn't care. They went ahead and do what they wanted to do because they are on the big hustle. They don't care how the rest of the population is hurt by inflation. And even when the stuff raised, it took a hell of a lot of fight against these guys and his administration for him to turn around and then reduce the price that he was taking. Because out of the price of the gas, he was taking like 50% of it in taxes. And people kept on asking him, why doesn't he at least reduce the gas price $1 or $2? Or in other words, take a little less. Of course, he has to pay the wage bills. He has the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance. But he does not have to be squeezing a poverty-ridden society to extract more than he needs to extract out of them while they're mismanaging and misspending and misallocating and misappropriating the funds of the country. And we keep borrowing money on top of what we don't, because we don't have. In other words, we're putting in some of these debts on future generations yet unborn. How crazy are these people just in order for them to keep fleecing the process? Because they feel good enough to do what they're doing without any consequences. The dam will break. There's only so much water a dam can hold. And then the water starts spilling over, and so at some point, the whole dam breaks and the whole thing collapses. All these guys are doing is fortifying their own personal coffers and that of their family, friends, and colleagues. It's unfortunate that Belize has not been able to have people who come in pretending good intentions, expressing good intentions or hopes, that we can have some of those same people stay within the limits of those intentions and good hopes and operate within that limitation. Instead of getting big-headed, power drunk, and chancy. Because that's all is happening with Belize. That's our problem. Our problem is not because we're getting less funds into the country every so often because of, things happening from abroad. If our leaders were to be governing our country the way other small countries govern their country, we should have been better off today than we currently are. There's always enough money to do enough of the government work. If it's not misappropriated or misplaced or misused. Nobody is asking them to perform miracles or to become any saint. All they have to do is steal less, or misappropriate, or misspend less, or mismanage in a more honorable way. You got all these bloated contracts, such as the $7 million sewage pond that they're going to buy to go and build a hospital. When the land for the hospital was already available according to the University of Belize, which is where the hospital was proposed to be built in order to expand the University of Belize and allow the University of Belize to be able to provide teaching facilities and enhance their university capability medically wise, which was a good agenda. But they sold a piece of land for a few $100,000, less than $1 million. I think it was like $500,000 to $600,000, and then turn around and buy it back from the same person within a few months' time for $7 million, just because they wanted to have money for the Northern campaign. That's what it was all about. And the money was grabbed and used, and as of today, nothing has been done with the toilet hole. Now the jackal, I was about to say something wrong. I'm glad I caught myself. This show is not about being indecent, cursing and blackguarding, and it is for tonight, at least particularly tonight. It's intended to be a rough show because, like I said, I'm intended to call them and kick butts, and who no like so, tough luck, do your next best. And um, I'm no defender of any prime minister or any minister or anyone. Okay, as far as my country is concerned, I'm going to say like it is, say what I need to say about it. And who don't like it, like I said, tough luck, do your next best. And when you find out that your next best is not good enough, then you could go to the next step and do the other next best until you get your satisfaction. But don't expect me not to say what I need to say or tell you how I feel about your misbehavior. That's my right and my obligation, as a matter of fact. How can the Prime Minister, as the Minister of Finance, doesn't know that bloated contracts to the tune of 28, almost $30 million are being given out by the airport for services that had not been rendered at the time, even when the money was being paid out? How can the Prime Minister, as Minister of Finance, have people working within his department cutting deals for contracts, bloated contracts at that, and some contracts that are non-existent, what you call ghost contract at that? And for those who think that I don't know what I'm talking about, let me give you a little, without having to give you the whole details. I'm talking about the many contracts under Mr. What's the gentleman name from Toledo, Mr. Martinez, Toledo East. Okay. And then there are many others that I can allude to. But having gone to Toledo East, I want to mention that this craziness that the CEO for immigration, who is now the CEO for labor apparently, is talking about, what, trying to hustle people from abroad to come into Belize to come and do the work that Belizeans don't want to do. It's not because they don't want to do the work, it's because they are not afforded and given the opportunity to do the work. They are discriminated against. That she's not saying. But she want to get up there and talk stupidness about Belize need workers, and therefore we need to violate our constitution by bringing in workers from Guatemala to change the demography of our country, which Guatemala has been trying to do from over 200 years ago when they asked for that cart road to facilitate commerce. The agenda was not only facilitation of basic commerce, it was about facilitation of having a demographic impact on Belize and the changing of the Belizean demography so that they would not have to fire a bullet to take Belize, as they had said. Belize es nuestro, lo conseguiremos por la razón o la fuerza, which is to say, Belize belongs to us and we will get it by reason or by force. So now we have all jackal high officials then playing games of reason with our mortal enemy and facilitating our mortal enemy to overrun us. And they come with straight face and tell these things to us on the media. And that is our policies of state, as if they haven't even read the basic preamble to our constitution, or our constitution under section 27 and others. Where do we get these jackal people to handle our affairs in such onerous ways? And so bold-faced and face it to come and throw it in our face. Why? There's no consequence to such behavior. Some of them know that they are violating the Constitution, but who cares? They don't. And who or which one of us is going to take their hands and force them to do the work the way they are supposed to be doing it? Belize and Belizeans, I'm just riling up. I'm just riling up. Because, like I said, after tonight's program, you know, you can have whatever opinion you want about me, but that will not change my commitment to the well-being and safety and security of my country. Okay, I'm not here expounding what I'm expounding to gain friends and favors. No way, not tonight. My agenda for tonight is to speak truth to power, and who doesn't like it, to hell with him. I'm a vanguard of my country, and I'll go down fighting. Don't come to me with your stupidness telling me that I need to be respectable or respecting of the Prime Minister, who's a damn scoundrel, and or that I don't need to be maligning the man or libeling the man or, you know, talk bad about the man. If he was doing the honorable things that he is entitled and empowered to do in my country, as the leader of my country, I should be here praising the gentleman rather than complaining about his damn shortcomings. Okay? I should not have to be put in a situation where I have to be complaining about nobody's shortcomings in the first place. But each and every one of us have a right or have our rights and are deserving of not having those rights violated, whether by somebody with power or without power. And the craziness that these jackals are doing in cabinet, conspiring against the people, and the mismanagement and misappropriation and the caretaking that they're doing is not proper caretaking. They're acting like autocrats. They're acting like a bunch of mafias, sitting down, pretending to be a government or using the authority that is vested in a government for them to carry on these type of misbehavior. And then turn around and want to create laws to penalize the basics, the average civilian, but don't create the laws that they promised that they was going to create in order to checkmate them and to stop them from ripping off the people. Does anybody have any idea how much $1 billion could do for Belize right now? Does anyone have any idea how much $1 billion could do for Belize right now? Every year, we have a budget approximately $1.5 to $2 billion. Part of it is budgeted for under the normal budgetary process, and other parts of it is based on going to the House and asking for additional supplemental and or asking for the power to enter into loans or notifying the House about grants and gifts that are given to the country by different organizations or individuals or countries that the country takes and spends. And for the last 10 years, we haven't had an audit in the country. Okay? And you would expect, as a Belizean, for me as a Belizean as well, to sit back and have all that kind of craziness happening and have nothing to say about it? Oh, it's well done. Whether under the UDP or under the PUP? Baloney. Why can't we have an audit or the Auditor General does their job? They're being paid? The Inspector General is being paid? The Financial Secretary is being paid? All these different government officers are being paid to do their job. And as of today's date, nobody in the civil service or the government has been doing their job according to the description of their job portfolios and the payment that they're receiving for those particular assignments or job categories. Nobody. Leonard Brackett is saying that. I know where the skeletons are. I haven't even gotten to the point where they're embellishing and what do they call it? Basically stealing government assets and government resource, government money, the embezzlement of government funds, and the hanky-panky behind the scene back alley behavior or transactions in a metaphorical way, and in some instances in an actual way, where people are using their government positions to hustle money that should legitimately go to the government coffers for the services that they themselves are getting paid to provide, and should make that money reach the government coffers in order for their paycheck not to bounce. Some of them are getting more money than the government in customs, for example, or in the passport department, for example, or in the vital statistics, for example, or even in the police department, for example. You go and you ask for a report that costs $8. And if you can suborn the right person for another $50, you can get that report in one day. In fact, in less than a day. You can get that report in a few hours. In fact, in less than an hour. And that's the police department I'm talking about, right? And that's not all of their transgressions, because I could go into details with many more. We're not even talking about hospital, okay? Where the medicines are disappeared, the very little that is being provided, that when in fact more should be provided by the Minister of Health and his department. You have a lot of people in Belize. You have medicines, for example, that deal with high blood pressure and many others, renal problems and things like those. Because we have such a high level of that type of needs for services in the country. That's where the focus of the Ministry of Health should be, to focus on the critical and more devastating ailments, to bring reprieve to the society. A healthy society is a better working society. A society that has too much medical problems cannot provide for itself adequately because of the ailments. These hospitals can get a lot of support from abroad, but they don't get as much as they should and could get. Why? Because in some instances, you can't get the Minister of Health to speak to the colleagues them in cabinet for them to have some of these things that people want to give to the country, come into the country duty-free. And if people have to pay to give you something, they have to pay you duty for you to accept it in your own country. That's putting more pressure on the person that's trying to facilitate your to help you with meeting your needs and your obligations. But they rather give duty-free to these big financial conglomerates who give them a shot of liquor and call them in and have a little party and invite them to hobnob. They can get, as a matter of fact, worse than that. How the hell can, in a country like Belize, you ever have a place that have hurricane, and during the course of a hurricane, the government go allow the what they call them, the BPO organizations or companies them to tell their employee that those employees are essential services and they can't go home and take care of the family or do nothing in regards to their own safety and life and well-being because they're essential employees. When the country does not perceive that to be correct, The laws did not perceive that to be correct. But somebody in the Prime Minister's office and other Labor Department office and other areas collude together to bring a statutory instrument and put that statutory instrument as a other law under which the people have to be governed or gets governed, and their constitutional rights are overridden, to the point that these people during the hurricane have to be showing up at their jobs because of misclassification of their position on their jobs by honest people, by jackals who are taking a little something on the side. And they facilitate these foreign companies to come in and take advantage of the local population for a fee. That's crazy. Belizeans, you need to wake up. If you don't wake up, don't complain about what you find out. When you do, get forced to wake up. You don't want to wake up voluntarily? That's your prerogative, you know. Nobody can force you to wake up. Nobody can force you to go to sleep. Those are God-given prerogatives. Those are inalienable rights. If you play the fool, watch what's happening and pretend that you can't do anything about it, or you don't care about it. Because I'm going to tell you right here and now, that attitude is what got Belizeans, especially the black Creole Belizeans then, in this dire strait that they are today, to the point where CEO of government ministries are telling you in your own face, as of current news, today, yesterday, and the day before, and other days before that, and will continue to tell you after today and into the future, that you don't matter, like the Prime Minister said. Creole Belizeans are minority. We are insignificant. They don't have no need for you anymore. They don't have any need for you anymore because they bring in their own people from abroad who are beholden to them and who will vote for them to keep them in power. The hell with you. They don't need you anymore. Those days when they needed you and your vote are far and long gone. But you sit there, sucking your big thumb, sitting down in a corner, playing with your neighbor, and pretend that somehow or another you'll survive for much more. Maybe we'll never believe how treacherous Mr. Belizean would have turned out to be, right? So, partially, that's because of, being unaware. Try to get the man a fair shot to prove himself, and after the fact, you now find out that he proved himself as a shyster, a bamboozler, uh, you know, a liar extraordinaire, He lies without any need, He soft-soak you. He tell you what you want to hear rather than what you need to know. Hello? Just in order for him to continue his reign. And at every step of the way, he collect millions of dollars. Okay? He has his cane farm. As a matter of fact, I recall the previous Prime Minister when he was Prime Minister, read in the House of Representatives a list of properties that the current Prime Minister, Mr. Belizean, had acquired while he was the Minister of Land in the previous administration, under the Musa administration. And the man had gone away with, as far as I could add the numbers then that came out on that particular statement from the previous Prime Minister, it seemed like about 8,000 acres of land. 2,000 here, 3,000 there, and like that. Almost 8,000 acres of land in that one particular reading that Prime Minister was doing in the House of Representatives. Mr. Belizean had acquired for him and his family. while he was Minister of Land, while he was in charge of government properties. He appropriated unto himself and his family not less than 8,000, and very much likely more than that. Others that were not on that particular list. And I know since then he had acquired a lot more. Because the man he had cane farm and still do. He have cattle ranching. Those are different concerns. He has gas stations. He have internet companies. He's getting a prime minister salary. He's getting a salary as an elected member of Congress. He's getting a salary as being the airport. What do they call it? Forget. Uh, I think a concession. I don't remember exactly what the name. So let me not get into trying to stipulate exact names, and because right now I don't have the documents in front of me. But I'm talking about the substance. So the man have money coming out of years, plus he have money where they get benefits out of from his father's original assets. Okay? So the man is not want for anything or doesn't know where his next meal is coming from. Every year the man they collect millions of dollars beyond what he needs to survive off or live off. So that's the reason why he can afford to now behave as if he has no concern or interest or fidelity to the Constitution or the people of Belize. And then he has his members of cabinet whom he, whenever apparently he needs to, he whips them into shape to support whatever they want to bring out of cabinet under the authority of cabinet to force into the society as rules, regulations, or expectations of cabinet, or laws that are passed, taken to the House and passed into legislative agendas, none of which accrues to the benefit of the people, and most of which accrues to damaging the people of Belize, when in fact he's sworn to do just the opposite. And now the man wants to turn around and not only just disobey the existing constitution and pretend that it doesn't exist, he just wants to wipe it out of existence. When in fact the constitution says that nobody has the authority to dispossess the public of their fundamental rights that is listed under Section 3 of the Constitution of Belize all the way through Section 19 and Section 20 for judicial review and Section 94 and 95 for empowerment of the ultimate authority vested in the court or in the judiciary. The man wants to be able to decide how he will structure the judiciary to serve his purpose. The judiciary under his leadership, according to him, should not be an independent, co-equal branch of government, which then means that he does not respect or regards or have any fidelity to the Constitution and to abide by the constitutional constraints on him as the Prime Minister. Because as the Prime Minister, he is entitled to exercise delegated powers that the head of state authorizes the Governor General to bestow on the Prime Minister. That's why the Prime Minister goes to the head of state or to the Governor General for ascension of the powers to govern after he wins the election. He don't want to do that anymore. He wants to eviscerate the position of the Governor General. He wants to eviscerate the position of the head of state, and he wants to become the head of state, whether under the title of a Prime Minister, which is not likely, because a Prime Minister cannot be head of state, by the way. I'm talking about legal technicalities there when I say make that statement. But for all intents and other purpose or reasons that he's not stipulating or clarifying, he wants to become the future president of the Republic of the future Republic of Belize. But he's not explaining that. He's not telling nobody that. I just told you. You don't believe me? Go read the amendments that are proposed under the PCC Act by Mr. Chanona and the Commission. Go read it for yourself. Don't take my word. Whether you're UDP, PUP, or whatever kind of P you are, don't have to believe what I say. But I tell you what part you go and find the information for yourself, so you can read it for yourself, figure it out for yourself, and then decide whether you want to believe it then or not. And I'm telling you as of right now, what you believe and don't believe don't make a difference, because these guys are not operating on your belief. They are operating on their desire, their wishes, and hoping that you and the rest of the country will operate based on their command. Because now I'm beyond my presentation time by at least 1 minute. I got to close. But as of right now, what these guys are doing is they're trying to get you, the Belizean people, used to the idea that when they want to declare an SOE, or does declare an SOE, that SOE comes with the powers of state and the authority vested in the police department as well as the military to subjugate you, the people of Belize, under illegal, unlawful, and unconstitutional deprivation of your rights because they want to, or because they choose to, or because they say so. They don't want to hear nothing of what the court is saying that those things are illegal. They could care less. They're going to still commit the crime, and it's left to you to be able to have the money and the time to go and get your own vindication from the courts. And you're going to have to fight them because they control the treasury of the country. So you're going to fight against your own treasury, the government treasury. You're going to fight against the high power laws that they could bring to bear. And even at that, if the court so deem that you were right and that they were wrong, and tells them to make you whole, to pay you for your damages caused, they could walk away and say, well, to hell with the court, let the court bring its own police force and its own military or whatever they could bring to bear and put into effect their orders. That's the way how these onerous scofflaw, I don't want to use the wrong word or say something blackguarding, but I'm trying to get across an idea that these people are beyond. I don't know. I'm talking to Belizeans. And as a Belizean, it hurts my very soul to realize that you, the Belizean people, continue to elect these same jackals over and over and over to abuse you, and then you turn around and sit down and cry, sucking your finger and kind of pretend that, well, there's nothing you can do. When you had the chance to do something, you didn't do what you needed to do. And when another chance is presented to you, you're going to do the same thing again. You're going to repeat the same cycle. You have been doing that from Independence Day till today. And it seems like you still don't get any more wiser about what the hell is going on. And why is it that you're in a corner sucking your finger, crying like a wee baby, and playing with your neighbor for contentment? When in fact these guys are giving you $50 or $100 for your vote when voting day, and while you plate of food, and a cup of beer, and while you music, and your party for that one day, and when that money is done, used up for that one day, you go back and wait another 5 years till the time come around again. Belizeans wake up and step back like a bunch of idiots, okay? I'm so damn frustrated now to the point where, because I don't want to get blackguarding and say the wrong thing or say something out of the way, and just close the damn show down for right now. Talk to you some other day. Tonight, I did not get to cover all the material I wish to cover. and deal with all the points of contention that really driving me crazy right now. And I'll just say thank you for those who have been listening to us, those who will be listening to us in the future, and hope that I can close this program and get out of it before disgracing and dishonoring myself and my audience and my colleagues. Good night, Belizean at home and abroad. God bless.